If you ever thought, I'm just not talented enough, other people learn faster, they're just more gifted than I am, what if I told you that the real difference isn't talent, it's mindset? In this video, we are going to explore the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and how changing the way you think can completely change the way you grow. Hey everyone, Mark here. This video fits perfectly into the Mindset of a Musician series. The idea comes from the book Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. She describes two fundamentally different ways people see themselves, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Understanding the difference between the two can completely change the way you approach challenges, mistakes, and learning. So let's start with a fixed mindset. As babies, every single one of us learned how to walk and how to talk. We didn't sit there thinking, what if I'm not talented enough? Or maybe walking just isn't for me. We tried and we failed and we tried again until we mastered that skill. But somewhere along the way, many of us start to doubt the ability to grow. We start to believe that intelligence, talent, or skills are fixed traits, and our beliefs are often shaped by our environment, by our parents, by our teachers, by praise, comparison, or criticism. As Dr. Dweck explains in her book, a mindset is simply a belief about yourself, and beliefs can be changed. But first, we need to recognize that. So, a person with a fixed mindset tends to avoid challenges. They might think, I'm not good at this, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not talented enough to do that. In music, this would be like staying in your comfort zone, avoiding to play difficult songs or avoiding to play with better musicians, always playing the same old stuff. Because if you never stretch yourself, you never risk exposing your weaknesses. So a musician with a fixed mindset prefers to play with less skilled musicians, not to grow, but to feel validation. And over time, growth is slowing down. Not because the potential isn't there, but because the belief system is blocking it. So now let's look at what happens when our mindset shifts. A person with a growth mindset sees challenges differently. The situation might be the same, but the interpretation is completely different. Let's take a simple example. You play in a show and you forget the lyrics. A fixed mindset might immediately think, I'm a failure. I'm just not made for this. A growth mindset feels a disappointment too, but instead of turning it into identity, it turns it into feedback. Maybe I've not practiced enough, or maybe preparation wasn't consistent. And instead of hiding the mistake, that moment becomes fuel. And it creates energy to improve. I actually have a whole video about why failing is important. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link up probably here. So when I was younger, people told me I should stop singing. They told me I'm not a natural, and it hurt. But instead of quitting, something inside me responded with, okay, I'm going to work as hard as I can to become the best singer I can possibly become, to show them that I can do this. And there was also a time when I surrounded myself with guitarists who were not as advanced as I was. And it felt good until I realized that I stopped improving and I hadn't learned anything in 2 years. So I started going to weekly jam sessions, and that was intimidating and it felt really uncomfortable because every player there was better than I was. But I learned so much in those sessions, more than I had in the previous 2 years combined. And that is growth mindset in action. It's not about denying talent. A growth mindset understands that talent is just the starting point. Effort, consistency, and deliberate practice are what actually create progress. A fixed mindset might say, I'm talented, I don't need to work as hard. And that's where growth stops. The moment you protect your identity, you stop expanding it. And that leads us to an uncomfortable but important question. Which mindset are you living from? The truth is, most of us don't have just one mindset. We all carry both. a fixed mindset in some areas and a growth mindset in others. As you've been watching this video, you've probably noticed yourself agreeing with certain statements and maybe feeling uncomfortable with others, and that's a good sign. So if you naturally lean more toward a growth mindset, that's great. You probably enjoy challenges, you don't define yourself by failure, and you see effort as something positive. But if you recognize more fixed patterns in yourself, that's okay too, because awareness is not weakness. It's the first step toward change. Because the important part isn't labeling yourself, it's realizing and recognizing your beliefs in real time. Do you avoid challenges? Do you protect your image? Do you interpret failure as identity? And once you start observing your reactions, you begin to start to see where growth is possible. So let's talk about how we can actually make that shift. Shifting your mindset doesn't start with positive thinking. It starts with awareness. We have to notice when our fixed patterns show up. And that can be uncomfortable because we're deeply attached to our identities. We often think, that's just who I am. And I can't change that. I can't change who I am. But we have to acknowledge that identities are more flexible than we think. For years I thought I'm not a morning person, and I've already made a whole video about that. If you want to watch that, I'll link it up here. It's about my morning routine. So if you would have told my younger self 10 years ago that I'm a morning person now, he would say I'm crazy. But I only changed when I stopped treating it as personality and started treating it as a belief. So I read about it, I experimented, and for the last 3 years, I'm waking up early now. It's crazy. My behaviors in that case changed first, and my identity followed, but you could also do the same thing vice versa. You could look at a morning person and see what their behaviors look like, adopt them and implement them into your life. So now let me give you a simple 5-step framework how you can change your mindset from a fixed one to a growth one. So number 1, recognize when your fixed mindset shows up. Number 2, separate it from your identity. Very important. A thought is not who you are. Number 3, reflect on where it comes from. So parents, teachers, past praise, comparison. Number 4, ask, how would a growth mindset respond right now? Or even, how would someone I admire handle this? And number 5 is the practical part, act accordingly. So even if it feels unnatural at first, just do it. So here's a real life example after a concert. I used to have a fixed mindset after shows. When no one came up to me afterwards and said, hey man, that was amazing, my mind would immediately say, I played badly. Or maybe I'm just not good enough for that. And that's a fixed interpretation. But then I started reflecting. Not everyone gives feedback. Sometimes I don't either. And that doesn't mean the performance was bad. And then I realized something else. As a teenager, I got a lot of praise after shows, so I got used to external validation. So when it wasn't there, my brain thought I played badly even when I wasn't. A growth mindset would respond differently. It would think, I played well. Maybe the last song was a little bit loose. We're gonna check that out with the guys later in the rehearsal. But for now, I'm gonna be present with the fans at the merch table. No over-analysis, no identity crisis, just information. So now when I play a show, I try to remove expectations about audience reactions. Because the only thing I can really control is how I play. So compliments are nice, constructive criticism is helpful, but neither defines me. And that's really what shifting your mindset is about. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about choosing a more empowering interpretation of the moments that matter. So I hope this video gave you a good reason to think about your mindset. If you found this helpful, please leave a like and subscribe. For deeper insights, you can join me in my Mindset Money newsletter. Link is in the description. Let me know what's your mindset and how you deal with it. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next one.